Do not ask questions about the dead. The envelope appeared under Tolu's door at 2 a.m. She found it when she got up to use the bathroom. White envelope, no name on it, just slid under. She picked it up. Inside was a single piece of paper. One sentence, handwritten in blue biro. Some graves are better left closed. She stood in her doorway for a long time, looking at it. Then she looked down the corridor. Empty. The emergency light at the stairway was flickering like always. No movement, no footsteps fading away. Whoever left it had come and gone quietly. She went back inside and locked her door. Sat on her bed, looked at the paper again. Her hands were not shaking. That surprised her. She had expected fear. What she felt instead was something colder. Certainty. Because people do not leave warnings like this for people who are wronged, they leave them for people who are getting close. She told Chioma in the morning. Chioma read the note twice. Then she looked at Tolu with an expression that was equal parts fear and resolve. We need to get into that room, Chioma said. I know. They recruited Debbie reluctantly. Debbie had been trying to pretend none of this was happening. She had exams. She had been doing a very good job of performing normality for 3 weeks. But when Tolu showed her the note, the performance cracked. Somebody is watching you, Debbie said. Yes. And you still want to go in? Yes. Debbie looked at the note for a long time. Then she said something that surprised both of them. Amara would have gone in, she said quietly. Nobody answered, because Amara had gone in, and look what happened. But Debbie was not wrong. They went at 1:15 a.m. The corridor was empty. The three of them moved quietly. No lights, just their phone screens on low. When they reached the wall where room 27 had been sealed, Chioma ran her hands along the edges. The world was thick, heavy, thorough. But at the bottom right corner, where the wall met the floor, the paint had cracked. Not from age, from below, like something had pushed up from inside. Chioma crouched down, used her nail to chip at it. The paint flecked easily. Underneath was a gap, not huge, but enough. The weld had been applied to the door frame, but the wall around the frame was old plaster, and old plaster cracks. They walked quietly for 20 minutes, widening the gap at the bottom. Just enough. Tolu went in first. She did not think about what she was doing, she just did it. She moved on her stomach, phone in hand, and she was inside room 27. She stood up slowly, swept her phone light around. The room was exactly as she had heard. Old bunk bed, broken chair, dust thick on the floor. But not all the dust was old. Some of it had been disturbed recently. She could see footprints. One set, small, narrow, going from the gap in the wall to the bunk bed, but not back. The footprints reached the left leg of the bunk bed and stopped. There was no return set, like whoever had come in had stood there for a long time and then left by a different route, or had not left at all. She looked at the left leg of the bunk bed. Mama Risia said, "Under 8." She crouched, ran her hand across the floor underneath. Nothing, just cold concrete, dust, silence. She sat back on her heels. Then she looked up. The lower bunk was rusted metal. The upper bunk above it was higher than it looked. She climbed onto the lower bunk and reached upward. Her hand moved along the underside of the upper frame. And then her fingers found it, taped flat against the metal, hidden above eye level. A small notebook. Old. The pages were yellow and soft. She pulled it free gently, opened it. Ngozi Eze's handwriting. Small, careful, precise. It was a diary, starting from January 1991. She did not read it all there. She tucked it against her body. Then she looked at the wall on the left side. She moved her light slowly, and there they were. Words scratched into the plaster under 3 layers of paint, only visible because her phone light caught the angle at a strange angle. She had to move her face close to read them. She read the first line, then the second, then the third. She stood up very slowly. Her phone light was shaking now, not from fear, from the weight of what she had just read. She went back to the gap, passed the notebook to Chioma's waiting hands. Then she pulled herself out. The three of them crouched together in the dark corridor. "What does it say?" Debbie whispered. Tolu looked at them both. She did not write a name, Tolu said. She wrote a description. She paused. She described the person who told her to go into room 27 that night. Silence. Someone told her to go in there, Debbie said. Yes, someone she trusted. Someone who said they needed to show her something important, Tolu said Voight steadily. Someone who led her to that door and made sure she went in alone. The corridor was completely silent. And then walked away, Tolu said. More silence. Ngozi did not die of heart failure, Tolu said. She went into that room because someone sent her there, and whatever is in that room did to her what it did to Amara, except Ngozi was alone, and no one came back to open the door. Debbie covered her mouth. Chioma closed her eyes. Tolu said quietly, Ngozi was conscious long enough to scratch those words into the wall. She wanted someone to know who sent her in there. Who? Chioma whispered. Tolu looked at her. The description on the wall, Chioma, it matches someone we see every day. She paused. It matches Mrs. Adeyemi. Ngozi was lured into room 27 by someone she trusted, sent inside alone, and the woman who sent her there has been sitting in that warden's office for 22 years, watching, waiting, making sure the room stayed sealed and the girl stayed forgotten. But now, 3 students know the truth, and Mrs. Adeyemi is already making phone calls. The hunter becomes the hunted. They did not sleep that night. The 3 of them sat on Tolu's bed with Ngozi's notebook between them, and they read every word from January 1991 to the last entry, which was dated 3 days before Ngozi's death. The diary told a story that made their blood cold, not because it was supernatural, because it was not. Ngozi had discovered something. In her 2nd month at the hostel, she had found a document by accident. She was helping the junior warden carry files back to the main office after a fire drill. A folder slipped, papers scattered, and one of those papers which she picked up without thinking was a list. Names, female students, with amounts next to their names, and dates. She had not understood it immediately. She put it back, said nothing, but she had a good memory. And over the next few weeks, she started noticing things. The girls on that list, some of them were receiving packages, small ones, delivered quietly. Some of them were going off campus on specific nights, coming back with money they could not explain. One of them, a 2nd-year student named BC, came back one night looking wrong. Her hands were shaking, her eyes were red. She would not talk to anyone. She dropped out the following week. Her family said health reasons. Ngozi wrote all of this down, carefully, systematically, the way a brilliant 1st-generation student from Newi writes things down, like the truth is the most valuable thing you own. Then, in her 3rd month, she made a mistake. She asked BC directly, before BC left. She sat beside her and said quietly, I saw the list. I know something is happening. You can tell me. BC looked at her, and her face went completely still. Forget whatever you think you saw, BC said. I can help you, Ngozi said. Nobody can help me, BC said. She stood up, packed her bag, and left the next morning. Ngozi kept digging. She was careful, quiet. She told no one. She wrote everything in the notebook. By November, she had enough of the picture to understand what she was looking at. The warden at the time, not Mrs. Adeyemi, but the warden before her, was running something, using the hostel, using the girls, connecting them to men off campus, collecting money. It was not complicated, but it was protected, because the warden had relationships with the school administration, and the school administration did not ask questions that would bring trouble. Ngozi's last entry was 3 days before she died. It said, Mrs. Adeyemi came to my room tonight, the new one, the assistant warden. She said she wanted to talk to me. She said she was concerned about me. She said she knew I had been asking questions and she wanted to help me. She told me to come to room 27 at midnight. She said she had something to show me, evidence. She said she was going to help me report everything. I do not fully trust her, but I have not trusted anyone here in months. I am going to go because if she is telling the truth, I cannot waste this. If I am wrong about her, I will know by morning. The entry ended there. Ngozi never wrote in the notebook again, because by morning, she was dead. Tolu closed the notebook, looked at her friends. Mrs. Adeyemi, the assistant warden in 1991, promoted to warden sometime after, sitting in that office for 22 years. She had not been protecting the room out of guilt, she was protecting herself. The notebook was evidence, the words on the wall were evidence, and now 3 students had both. "We need to go to the police," Debbie said. "With what? A 30-year-old diary and scratches on a wall that is now sealed? It is evidence," Chioma said. "It is a story. Without Ngozi's body, without a proper investigation, without forensics, it's just a story. And Mrs. Adebi has had 30 years to make sure this story sounds like superstition." The genius of what was done was exactly that. Let a ghost story grow around the room. Let students be afraid. Let the rule spread on its own. Nobody investigates a haunted room. The ghost story was the cover. Tolu stood up, walked to the window. The campus was quiet below. It was 4 a.m. She said, "There's someone else who knows. Mama Risi was here in 1991. "She already told you what she knew," Chioma said. "She told me what she was willing to tell me then," Tolu said. "She has not seen the diary yet." She turned around. "And there's one more person. BC." Silence. "She dropped out, but she was real. She exists somewhere. She saw the list. She knows what was happening." "She disappeared over 30 years ago," Debbie said. "People don't disappear," Tolu said. "They just stop being looked for." She looked at both of them. "I am going to find BC." Chioma looked at her for a long time and then she said quietly, "Tolu, Mrs. Adeyemi already made a phone call when you mentioned Ngozi's name. She knows you're asking questions." "I know." "If she finds out how much you actually know now." "I know," Tolu said again. Tolu was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Ngozi spent 3 months alone with this. No friends helping her, no one she could trust. She walked into that room by herself because she thought someone was finally on her side. She picked up the notebook. She has been in that wall for 30 years waiting for someone to read this. I am not going to let her wait any longer." That morning, something happened that none of them expected. Amara called. Not her parents calling on her behalf, Amara, her own voice.
"Hello?"
Tolu answered on the second ring.
"Yes?"
The voice on the other end was weak, thin, like someone speaking from a great distance. "Tolu, Amara, are you okay? Are you?" "Listen to me." Her voice was urgent, focused. "I don't have long. They don't let me stay for long." Who doesn't let you stay?" "She's with me." "The girl," she said, "the girl. The girl has been trying to reach you." "Ngozi?" A silence. Then Amara said, "She says you found the notebook." "Yes." "She says there's something you missed." Tolu stood up. What? What did I miss?" Amara's voice was getting thinner, fading like a signal losing strength. "The list," Amara said. "The list. Ngozi says the list still exists, the original." "Where?" Static. "Amara, where is the list?" But the line was already gone. The original list with names, amounts, dates. If that still existed, it was not just a ghost story, it was a criminal record. And when the answer came to Tolu slowly, it made her sit down hard on the edge of the bed. Not because it was surprising, because it made perfect sense. The person who kept the list was the same person who had been running everything, the same person who had never left, who promoted herself from assistant warden to warden, who kept immaculate files labeled, dated. Mrs. Adeyemi had not just buried the evidence, she had archived it. Amara called from the other side. Ngozi guided her. The original list still exists and it's sitting in Mrs. Adeyemi's office, filed, dated, protected by 22 years of careful living. Part 6. Tolu has to get that list, but Mrs. Adeyemi is not going to make it easy and she's not alone.